Tov. This is the recording for Daf Kaf Gimel Amud Bet. We're holding on the very top of Kaf Gimel Amud Bet by the Mishnah. So the projector is not working today. We don't have any projection, so we'll try to make do with imagination. Says the Mishnah, Misha Kidesh Achat Mishtei Achayot Ve'en Yodea Eze Mehen Kidesh. So someone was Mekadesh one of two sisters, and he's not sure which one. So he narrowed it down to two women. He's not sure which one. Now, how does this happen? So elsewhere in Kiddushin we have this case. Rashi here on the Gemara also explains a little bit. It's very possible if a person is Mekadesh a lady through her father. Let's say a guy has two daughters that are Ketanot, that he can accept Kiddushin for those two daughters. And someone goes to a lady and he says, I want to be Mekadesh your daughter. And he accepts the Kiddushin. And they don't know which one, they forget which one. Or a person is Mikadesh through a Shaliach, and this is a Shaliach who was appointed by each one of two sisters, and he has the right to accept Kiddushin for both of them. And someone is Mikadesh one of those two sisters, and they don't know which one. So, the guy is Mikadesh one of two sisters, he's not sure which one. So, noten get lezu veget lezu. He has to give a get to each one for them to go out free. Met velo ach echad. If he dies and he only has one brother, so the question is, what's the deal with Yibum? So in these cases, we're going to have to ask the following, before we allow Yibum, we're going to need to clarify a bunch of things. Number one, is there an Isur of Achot Zekukato here? So Achot Zekukato would mean the sister of a lady who has a zikah to him. So if there's potentially such an isser, then he can't do yibum. Also, we want to know if there's an isser of achot chalutzato. Once he does chalitza to a woman, he can't do yibum to her sister. So that's also going to be out the window. In all these cases that the Mishnah is going to discuss, we need to ask ourselves these questions. Also, we want to make sure there's no issue of Yevamot leshuk, that she's not tied down to a different family. She doesn't have a zikah to a different family before we allow yibum. All of these are going to be things that we're going to need to keep on our minds. So when it comes to chalitza, what do we say? Met velo ach echad. If he has one brother, so choletz lishtehen, he has to do chalitza to each one of the wives, because it could be this one is the wife and the sister is achot zekukato, so he can't do yibum to her. It could be that the other one is really the wife, and this one is achot zekukato, the sister of the one who has a zikah to him, and he can't do yibum to her either. So he's stuck, he cannot do yibum to either one, therefore he has to do chalitza to both of them. Hayulo shnaim. So if he has two brothers, so this one guy dies, he's married to one of two sisters, not sure which one, he has two brothers. So echad choletz ve'echad meyavem. One of the brothers could do chalitza to one of the women, and the other brother could do yibum, because mima nafshach, it's fine. If the first one is the real wife, so then the first brother did chalitza to her, and she's finished, and then the second the second one, the sister, is not the real wife. So the one who's doing yibum is just doing yibum to is just marrying a sister of his brother's chalutza. That's fine. And if the other one is the real wife, so then the first chalitza meant nothing, and the yibum is a real yibum. Now, kadmu v'kansu. Now, let's say they both do yibum. So the problem is the first brother in that scenario couldn't do yibum because it's gonna be achot zekukato. He has a zikah misafek to both women, so he can't do yibum to the first woman because it's a sister of the other lady who he has a zikah to. But if he does do yibum to her, they both of them basically marry these two sisters. So in motzin miadam, we don't make them divorce. Why? Because now they're both married. Now there's no achot zekukato, meaning at the point where the first one married, he wasn't supposed to marry. Okay, but now when the second one married also, so the first one is no longer a zekuka to the other brother, and therefore there's no achot zekukato. Shnayim shekidushu shtei achayot. Now let's say you have two random people, not brothers, two random people that they're mekadesh two sisters. So one of them is Mekadesh Rachel, one of them is Mekadesh Leah. They don't know which one is which. So Zenoten get it's basically going to be the same thing. Just instead of an individual, we have two sets of the same thing as we had in the previous in the first bava of the Mishnah. So Zenoten shtei gitin v'zenoten shtei gitin. Each one has to give a get to each wife. So the first guy has to give a get to those two sisters, and the second guy also has to give a get to those two sisters. Metu. If they both die, lezeach v'lezeach, so each one has a brother. So zeh choletz lishtein v'zeh choletz lishtein. Each brother is going to need to do chalitza to those two sisters. Brother of the first guy is going to need to do chalitza to those two sisters, and brother of the second guy is going to need to do chalitza to those two sisters. Lezeh echad v'lezeh shnayim. Now, let's say the first guy had one brother, and the second guy, the other guy who married one of the sisters who died, had two brothers. So hayachid choletz lishtein. The guy who had one brother, so that guy has to give, the brother has to give chalitza to both of them, because he can't do yibum to either one, because there's safek achot zikukato on each one. And he can't do chalitza to one and then do yibum to the other, because then it's going to be achot chalutzato. But the two brothers, echad choletz echad miyabem, like we said by two brothers, one can do chalitza and the other one could do yibum mima nafshach. Because if the first one was a real chalitza, so then he could do, the second one could do yibum on the sister. If the first one was not a real chalitza, so then the second one is a real yibum. Kadmu v'kansu ein motzin miyadam. But if they did go through with yibum, both of them were miyabem, both of them married these two ladies, so ein motzin miyadam, because there's no longer achot zikukato, because the zikah was taken care of. Lezeh shnaim u'lezeh shnaim. Now let's say each one has two sisters, so you have two random people, not brothers, and each one two random people, not brothers, each one married a girl, one of these two sisters, they're not sure which one, and each one of those people die, the men die, and they each have two brothers. So achiv shel zeh choletz la'achoto, la'achat, v'achiv shel zeh choletz la'achat, v'achiv shel zeh miyavim chalutzato shel zeh, v'achiv shel zeh miyavim chalutzato shel zeh. So basically, one of the brothers of the first guy is choletz one of the ladies, does chalitza to one of the ladies. One of the brothers of the second guy does chalitza to the other sister. Now the brother of the first one can do chalitza, can do yibum to the one who the opposite brother, the brother of the other guy, did chalitza to, and the one and the other brother of the other guy can do chalitza, could do yibum to the brother of the to the one who the first brother did chalitza to. So basically, the svara is that when the first guy does chalitza to the first woman, so we have to, she is no longer able to marry this family because she had chalitza from this family. You can't do yibum to the lady who your brother did chalitza to. It's chalitzat achiv. You can't do that. So his brother can't do yibum to her, but the other sister got chalitza from the other family, so she's no longer Yevamot l'shuk. She could do yibum to not to the guy who did chalitza to her sister, because that would be achot chalutzato, but to his brother. And then the opposite case on the opposite side, also same thing. Now kadmu v'kansu, if let's say after the first family, one of the brothers does chalitza, the second family, both of them do yibum to both wives, that it's not allowed, but we wouldn't break them apart. Kadmu shnayim v'chaltzu v'lo yibumu hashnayim ela echad cholet v'echad miyabem. I'm sorry, it says let's say the first two did chalitza, so those two brothers did chalitza on both of those sisters, so lo yibmu hashnayim, the second set can't do yibum, because there's no longer an issue of Yevamot l'shuk for those two sisters because they both got chalitza, but they can't do yibum to both of those sisters because each one can't do yibum because you're gonna run into achot zekukato. So ela echad choletz ve'echad miyabem. One has to do chalitza, and then the second brother could do yibum. But in that case, kadmu v'kansu en motzin miyadam. If both of them do yibum, en motzin miyadam, we don't make them get divorced. So says the Gemara, Shema mina kiddushin she'en misurin lebiyah havu kiddushin. So the Gemara says we see that kiddushin she'en misurin lebiyah is kiddushin. What's kiddushin she'en misurin lebiyah? So it's machlok Rabbi and Rabbi and kiddushin. It's a machlok Rabbi and Rabbi and kiddushin. Whether if a person is mekadesh a lady, and because he did that kiddushin, so he did it in a way that it's not shayach biyah. Like this case, he's mekadesh one of two sisters, so that kiddushin is not misurin libiyah. It's not shayach to perform biyah afterwards because each one is going to be asura on him. So is that kiddushin a good kiddushin or not? That's machloket Abaye and Rava. So the Gemara says, let's answer from here. Shema mina kiddushin she'en misurin libiyah havu kiddushin. It sounds like it's a good kiddushin because and it was kiddushin she'en misurin libiyah because he was mekadesh one of two sisters. If you're mekadesh two sisters, then or one of two sisters and you don't specify which one, so you can't have biyah with either one of them because either one of them might be the sister of the lady who you are mekadesh, which is asura bebiyah. So it's kiddushin she'en misurin lebiyah. You did a kiddushin to one of two sisters, but you can't have biyah with any of them to finalize the marriage. So we should see from here that he has to give a get to each one. The kiddushin was tofes. So the Gemara says, the Gemara says, no, the case is that originally he knew who he was giving kiddushin to. He knew exactly which sister. The shaliach accepted it with that one in mind, or the father accepted the kiddushin, and they specified which daughter or which lady, which sister. And then afterwards, they got mixed up and they forgot. But at the time of the kiddushin, it wasn't kiddushin she'en musarin libiyah. So you have no proof from here to the machlok Rabbi of Rava. Dekanami diktani ve'eno yodea v'loktani ve'eno yadua. It says also eno yodea, he doesn't know which one he gave. It doesn't say eno yadua, that it's not known, that nobody knew. Because at one point it was known, it just became unknown, it was forgotten afterwards. So Shema Mina, the Gemara says you're right. You have no proof from here regarding the machloket of kiddushin she'en misurin libiyah, whether it's good kiddushin or not. Okay, so my kamash malan. The Gemara says if that's the case, if it's not teaching us anything about kiddushin she'en misurin libiyah, so then what's it coming to teach us? What's the chidush over here? My kamash malan. It's true, a lot of convoluted cases, but if you take the time to plug it in, everything is going with a rule that we already know. So what's the Mishnah coming to teach us? Sefa itzrichale. The Gemara says the Mishnah is coming to teach us chidush of the sefa. Met velo ach echad choletz l'shtein. It's coming to teach us the halacha by a case where a guy dies and he only has one brother, he has to do chalitza to both. B'hayu lo shnayim, if he had two brothers, echad choletz ve'echad miyabem. And if he had two brothers, one of them does chalitza and one of them does yibum. So what's the chidush? Davka michlatz v'adar yivume. The chidush is that first the guy has to do chalitza, one of the brothers has to do chalitza, and then the other brother could do yibum to the sister. Aval yivume b'reisha lo, but he can't do yibum first. Why? Because it's going to be an issue of achot zekukato. So first the brother has to do yibum, and then first brother has to do chalitza, and then the other brother could do yibum, because if not, it'll be achot zekukato. Even though the other brother will do chalitza afterwards, doesn't matter. He can't jump in lachatchila and do yibum first because of achot zekukato, even though the zika will be taken care of afterwards. That's the chidush of the Mishnah, that we hold there's an isser of achot zekukato, which is a machloket, which we've had earlier and we're going to have again. Okay, now we're jumping into the case where you have two brothers that were mekadesh, two sisters, not two brothers, two random people that were mekadesh, two sisters. We're not sure which one was mekadesh, which sister. So the Gemara starts off with the same shakla v'tar. Shema mina kiddushin she'en misurin lebiyah havu kiddushin. It sounds like kiddushin she'en misurin lebiyah is a good kiddushin, because again we don't know which one each one was mekadesh. So It's a kiddushin that cannot lead to bia. So the Gemara says, "Hachanami keshehukeru ulbesof nitaravu." Here also we're talking about a case where they knew who they were, but afterwards they got mixed up. Dekanami dektani ein yadu loktani eno ve'en yodea ve'en yadua. Sorry, it says ein yodea and not ein yadua. The difference between ein yodea and ein yadua is ein yodea means he at this moment does not know. Ein yadua means it is not known to anybody. So it says ein yodea he doesn't know, but it was at some point known to others. Okay, so Shema Mina, you have no proof over here regarding the machloket of kiddushin she'en misurin l'bia, kiddushin that cannot lead to bia. Umay kamash malan. What is this line coming to teach us? Seifa Yitzer Chalei. It's coming to teach us this case where you have two people who each were mekadesh one of two sisters, and nobody knows which one is mekudesh to which guy. So it's come. The chidush is the seifa. It says metu leze ach uleze shnayim hayachid choletz l'shteihem v'shnayim echad choletz v'echad meyabem. So he said if they die and each one has one of them has one brother and the other one has two brothers. So we say the individual brother has to do chalitza to both of the sisters, and the two, they have to, one of them does chalitza to one, and the second one could be miyabem. So the Gemara says pshita. That's true. If you think about it and you do the math and you think about all the isurim, that's what comes out. The first guy, he can't do yibum to any of them because achot zukukato. He can't do chalitza and then yibum to the other one because then it's going to be achot chalutzato. So he has to do chalitza to both. And the second set, they could do yibum. The second guy could do yibum to the sister. The first guy needs to do chalitza to take care of the zika in case that lady is the real Yevamot. And then the second brother could do yibum because mimanav shach. If she's the real Yevamot, so it's a real yibum. If she's not the real Yevamot, so there's no other isur here. So the Gemara says, "Hainu reisha." That's the same thing as the reisha. You're just plugging in the same information that we had before, the same rules that we had before. So the Gemara says, "Ma'u ligzor trei atuchad kamash malan." I might have thought that maybe bigozer trei atuchad, bigozer two. Because of one, meaning that in the case we have two guys, one of them has one brother, one of them has two brothers. So the one with two brothers, the second brother could do yibum after all said and done, and everyone else did the chalitza that they need to do. So I might think that where gozer, the second set of brothers, the second guy, he can't do yibum because the one guy is not doing yibum. Meaning when you have a case like this, the first brother is not allowed to do any yibum, and the first brother of the second guy is also not allowed to do any yibum. So I might think to be gozer, the last brother, atu, the rest of them, that he shouldn't do yibum either. Kamash Malan is coming to show me that we don't make such a gzera. That's a chidush. V'davka mechlatz v'adar yivume aval yivume bereisha lo dekapaga b'yivame l'shuk. And specifically it has to be that the brother, the single brother, he has to do chalitza first. Then the set of two brothers, one does chalitza, one does yibum. Because if this first brother doesn't do chalitza to both ladies, so the second set of brothers, one of them cannot do yibum, none of them can do yibum, because it's going to be an issue of yevama l'shuk, because potentially one of these two sisters is still tied down to him. So he first needs to do chalitza to both, and then these two brothers, one of them could do yibum, one of them could do chalitza. The chidush is by safek, meaning we don't know which wife belongs to which one. There's still an isur of yevama l'shuk. Okay, lezeh shnayim. So last case we said there's two brothers to each of the people. So two people married two sisters. We don't know which one is married to which sister. They both die. Each one of them has two brothers. So we said brother number one does chalitza to lady number one. Brother number two does chalitza to lady number two. Then the second brother of the first guy could do yibum to the other sister, the sister of the one who his brother did chalitza to, and the second brother of the second guy could do yibum to the one who the first guy did chalitza to. So the Gemara says, Hatu lamali. Okay, this is also, like I'm saying, why do we need this case? This we could have figured out on our own also. Hainuhach, it's the same rules. So the Gemara says, Malatem ligzor dimim miyavem below chalitza. I might have thought, since you have to, this one has to go first, and this one has to go second, and then this brother does yibum, and then that brother does yibum. So I might have thought they might get things out of order, and someone will end up doing yibum without chalitza. Therefore, we should answer everything kamash malan that we don't say that. Okay, now the Gemara asks, "Ma'ishna mehaditan arba'a achin shnayim mehen nisuin shtei achayot metu hanisuin et achayot harei elu chotzot v'lo mit Yevamot." So the Gemara asks, really according to Rashi here, it's two questions. We have a case of arba'a achin, which we had before, and it's going to come up as Hashem at the beginning of the next parak. You have four brothers, two brothers marry two sisters, and they both die. So you have a case where you have two sisters falling to two more brothers to do yibum. Okay, so in that case, first of all, we say nobody could do yibum. You can't have one brother do chalitza to one and the other do yibum to the other. We don't do that. So you have two sisters falling to two brothers. They have to both do chalitza to these two. To the two sisters, no yibum allowed. And also, if they do yibum, we break it up. But in our case, you have a similar thing. You have two sisters. We don't know which one was married to which guy, and essentially both sisters, misafek, are falling to two sets of brothers. We don't say that nobody could do yibum. We say, okay, one brother is choletz to one, the other brother of the other side is choletz to one. We don't say that nobody could do yibum. So why? What's the difference? How come? It's really two questions. How come we don't say that nobody could do yibum, and how come, right in our Mishnah, we should say that nobody should be able to do yibum, like we have by arba'a achin. It's all chalitza. And additionally, by arba'a achin, we say kadmu v'kansu, we separate them. Over here, if kadmu v'kansu, if they both do yibum, the last set of brothers, the first set of brothers did chalitza to both. Now they're falling only to this last set of brothers. We say kadmu v'kansu ein motzin. We don't stop them. We let them continue being married. Whereas by the case of arba'a achin, when two brothers marry two sisters and they died and they fall to yibum to the other two brothers, if they get married, we separate them. So why do we have these differences? So the Gemara says, why do we say that? So the Gemara says, the Gemara says that's not really a good question. Meaning, over there the Gemara says we have the reasons. If the reason is yesh zika, so then the reason is yesh zika. Meaning, again, the case is you have two brothers, two sisters that are falling to yibum mivadai to two brothers. So if you say yesh zika, I mean, according to the Mandamar yesh zika, so each brother cannot do yibum to either wife, because yesh zika means if this is the real Yevamah, this is her sister, and I can't do yibum to her sister because she's zakuka to me. I can't marry her sister. And I'm sorry, not if this is the real Yevamah. They're both sisters. They're both real Yevamahs. But he can't do yibum to this one because it's achot zakukato, because yesh zika, and he can't do yibum to this one because it's also achot zakukato. And also this brother can't do yibum to this one, and this brother can't do yibum to this one. Same reason. It's all asur because of achot zakukato. And once one of them is ne'esra, she's ne'esra. Once there's an isra of achot zekukato, so she's asra to do yibum mivadai. So then, even if this brother does chalitza and kicks out one of the ladies, so the other lady cannot do yibum to the other brother because she was already asra on him. And if you say the reason is asur levatel mitzvat yevamin, so meaning there's no issue of achot zekukato. They could do yibum to these two. The problem is if one does yibum and then the other one dies, so then this lady goes out free. We're being mevatel yibum and chalitza from her. Therefore, Chachamim said that no, you can't do yibum. You can't do yibum in such a case because asur levatel mitzvat yevamin. So if that's the case, so it doesn't matter. The point is that Chachamim made her asura on him, and we say once she's asura nesra, and that's it. It's finished. Even though if one of the brothers does yibum, or I'm sorry, one of the brothers does chalitza, the other brother can't do yibum because nesra, she was already asura on him. So that's true either if you hold yesh zika or you hold asur levatel mitzvat yevamin. Whatever the reason is, once Chachamim said that she's asura, and that's it, finished. But over here, by our case, it's only misafek. These two ladies are falling misafek. So when each one is falling misafek, meaning we're not sure which one is the real one. So we don't say nes rabbi isafek. So that's the difference between the case of arba achin and the case of the case of our Mishnah. Over here he has a svara that he could say that that's the other guy's. This is my Yevamah, and the other one is really not. So since we have that svara and each one is a safek, we don't say nesra. That once Chazal made it asur to do yibum, that's it, she's asur forever. Chazal made it asur misafek, but since it's only misafek, then it's okay. Kadmu v'kansu en motzin mi'adam. So we said, if they did yibum en motzin mi'adam, so this is a case where each the case was two people married. One of two, each one married a sister. We don't know which one married which, and they both died. The first two brothers, and one guy had two brothers, the other guy also had two brothers. So the first two brothers did chalitza to both of those women. We said by the second set, kadmu v'kansu, if they both do yibum, ein motzin mi'adam, and the Gemara says a chidush, tani shila afilu shneim kohanim, even if these two people are kohanim. Now, if they're kohanim, they're asurim to marry a chalutza, and one of them is vadai marrying a chalutza, because they're these two sisters. One of them really is the chalitza that was done to her was nothing, because one of them would never really fell to that family. She was a wife of another family, but one of them is vadai a chalutza, so it doesn't make sense. Why would they both be allowed to marry? Afilu shneim kohanim my taima. The Gemara says chalutza d'Rabbanan hi v'safek chalutza lo gazru b'Rabbanan. Chalutza is d'Rabbanan, and Chachamim were not gozer chalutza by a safek chalutza. Each one is a safek chalutza. Therefore, Chachamim were not gozer on a safek chalutza, and the Kohen is allowed to marry this lady even though chalitza was done to her, because it's a safek. Each one is a safek chalutza. So the Gemara says chalutza d'Rabbanan hi chalutza is d'Rabbanan v'atanya grusha. The pasuk says grusha, ein liela grusha, chalutza minayin. How do I know chalutza? Talmud lomar ve'isha. The pasuk says ve'isha, so we have a makor in the Torah. Ve'isha teaches me also chalutza as a surah to a kohen. So Gemara says midirabananu v'kra asmachta ba'alma. As midirabanan, and the pasuk is just an asmachta.